steps?
You went through them, you had finished them all, and to take us to the new me.
Okay. Then we're going to go like this. So now at the end of, just get a paragraph of Mishnah, chapter 2, Mishnah 5. Is that correct?
We hadn't finished.
I know exactly where you are. Okay. He used to say like this. Let me just quickly finish 4 today. Who are you? He used to say like this. I mean, Gamliel used to say like this. This is all about the law of attraction. And the law of attraction teaches as follows. That when you go out of your way to make his wishes your wishes, when you start a relationship with God that is beyond understanding, it's a deep relationship with God, that whatever God wants you do, you know what's going to happen? God will go out of his way that your wishes will become his wishes. Now, I want to say that that is really the law of attraction. The way you put out comes to you. If you're smiling at everybody, people are going to smile back at you. If you're nasty to people, people are going to be nasty back at you. But with Hashem, when you go out of your way to do the mitzvahs that he asked you to do, and at the same time, when you have a desire to eat something non-kosher, when you have a desire to gossip, when you have a desire to do something, whatever, and if you'll go out of your way and you'll push it down, you know what God will do? God will bring a protective shield around you. In other words, every single time you do something, you create an energy around you. That energy is not just an energy; it's a coat of mail. It becomes like a shield around you. And when people try, God forbid, an enemy who's trying to detract from you, God will take care of it. That's what we really believe. And Hillel says as follows, but as you go up on your journey in life, now we come back to Hillel, because until now we've been doing Hillel's descendants. Now we come back to Hillel. And Hillel says as follows, Al tifresh min hatzibur. And I want to translate it as follows. The simple explanation is, Al tifresh min hatzibur, that when the community is going through a hard time, and you've still got all the delicacies in your home, don't flaunt them, don't show them off. That's number one. Number two, when you're growing and you're starting to go out of your way to do God's wishes, and you're becoming frummer and more religious and more committed, and you really do think that you're going out of your way to do God's things, and every naughtiness you're subduing, you start to think yourself better than everybody else. And you know what Hillel says? Al tifresh min hatzibur. Never ever do that. Never not have place for another person. In other words, don't become so frum. You might not be able to eat in your neighbor's house, but you can always have a glass of tea in your neighbor's house. Because what some people can do, you can use spiritual growth as an excuse to separate from everybody else. And at times it can be difficult with friends, and all of a sudden somebody's become a little bit more observant. They can be very knocking, and the only reason why they're knocking is because they're a little bit jealous. They're feeling a little bit uncomfortable. They're feeling a bit out. So the Mishnah says, Al tifresh min hatzibur. Never become a stick in the mud that you don't have place for friends, etc., etc. And by the way, when you do go on this amazing journey, and you are going out of your way to do what God wants you to do, and preventing yourself from doing the things that God doesn't want you to do, and you're not separating yourself from community at the same time, remember the DNA of every single person is we have an evil inclination within us. We have a human being within us, a person within us that's there to pull us down. Call it depression, call it depression, call it anger, call it lust, call it whatever you want, but it's programmed there to bring you down. And therefore, no matter how spiritual you are, never ever get to the level that you're so arrogant or so sure of yourself that you can't fall, because you're programmed to fall. And by the way, when you are teaching, when you are growing, don't ever say ambiguous things. Don't teach people things that aren't understood immediately. Another explanation of this is, don't say things in private and think they're not going to get out. I mean, these are so unbelievable teaching, because a person can become frum, and all of a sudden you have a new Yetzirah. What's the new Yetzirah? What's the new evil inclination? You like to speak about other people. You like to gossip. The Mishnah says like this, never ever say something in private that you think will never be heard, because I promise you, just as you have a friend, your friend's friend has a friend, your friend's friend has a friend, eventually it gets out. So there are two explanations in that. One is, don't say something that's ambiguous, that eventually people will understand. I've been guilty of that. You say something you don't even mean to say it, and somebody took it all the wrong way. That's one explanation. Try to be as clear and as responsible as possible with your words. We're not children anymore. And secondly, don't say something that you think will never be heard out in the market street, because if you've said it, somebody else said it as well. We'll say it. And by the way, while we're on this subject, don't ever say And don't ever say that I'll learn later. I'll start growing later, which can apply in so many different levels of life. If you want to take this as a tool, so many of us, we put off things. We say, I'll get to it. I'll get to dieting. I'll get to becoming fit. I'll get to learning. And maybe the opportunity won't be given to you. So really, in these few weeks before Pesach, what should be going through all of our minds is, hold on a second, what are those things that I want to fix? Let me share with you a story. Opportunity comes your way, you deal with it immediately. There's a miraculous energy in the air. The energy is called Pesach, miraculous energy. And you've got to focus in on that. And what we should be doing now from the 2nd of Nisan, which happens to be the Yotzat of the 5th Lubavitcher Rebbe, what we should be doing now, thinking the things that we want to start. Let's start like it. Let's think about the things that we want to correct in our lives. That's number one. And everybody to their own. But we should think very seriously what we want to fix about. And we want to think about, and we want to take upon ourselves the things that we want to do. And when do we do it? We start immediately, because there's miraculous energy in the air in the month of Nisan leading up to Pesach, which means to say there's different moods. I use this word cautiously, but there are different mood swings up on high by Hashem. Now it's just miraculous. And while we said that, as we finish the Mishnah now, I want to continue what we did last week in the Haggadah. So last week, we gave the 15-step program of how you can absolutely transform your life. We said you get rid of the chometz, then Kiddush, you start anew, you get your mind to control your heart, you think about the mistakes of the past, you feel broke, you think about the mistakes of the past, that's karpas. You then break the matzah, that's feeling bad about the mistakes of the past. You can't just ignore them, but you put it away. And then what happens is you go through the Haggadah, and we went through all the 15 steps of the Haggadah, if I remember correctly. Now I want to go back a little bit. What's interesting, by the way, is let's think about what's the first thing we say at the Haggadah. Right now, remember, the Hillel just taught us now, don't put off things, start immediately. The first thing after we make Kiddush, next week we're going to go through the Seder table, the Seder plate, because there are 10 pieces, there are 10 parts to your soul, 10 pieces of chometz, 10 pieces of arrogance we have to get rid of on the night before Pesach, and then we create the Seder plate that has 10 pieces, that has 10 parts to it. Anyways, after we've made Kiddush, after we've started anew, after we have got our mind to control our heart, which is the idea of washing your hands, after we've done karpas, and after we put the matzah away, something amazing happens to us. We have started to renovate our lives. We have started to discipline ourselves. We're in a new journey. And once you're on a new journey, you can begin to speak. Somebody who's got issues and somebody who hasn't dealt with the issues is very dodgy. I don't mean dodgy in a bad way, but they keep away from people. You can't interact with the people because they've got things in them that they're dealing with. And I can't remember if I said it in this year. If you buy a home in Glen Hazel or any other area, and you could only afford to buy the home, but the house is a wreck inside. If when you walk inside, you have no plan, somebody comes to visit you, you're apologizing. I'm apologizing for the room, I'm apologizing for the bathroom, I'm apologizing for the leak, I'm apologizing that the kitchen looks this way, you're apologizing, you're feeling very insecure. But if when you bought the house, you knew this is all I could afford, and honestly, over the next 12 years, I'm going to renovate this entire life. Next year, I'm only going to do the kitchen. The following year, I'm going to do the bathroom. The following year, I'm going to do the living room. The following year, I'm going to do my bedroom. And you have a whole 12-year plan. When somebody walks into your house, they're looking around and they're laughing inside of them, but you are feeling so comfortable. Why are you feeling so comfortable? Because you are renovating. You're seeing the 15-year plan, and you're seeing you're doing properly and slowly like you can afford it. It's the same thing with your life. As you get to this level, you're no more a slave. Now, what's the first thing we say at the Haggadah? We say like this. Right now, so for the first time, by the way, because we've started to renovate our lives, we no more slaves. Now think about this. One of the central themes of the Haggadah is asking questions. One of the central themes of the Haggadah is speaking, because a slave can't speak. A slave just does his job. Look at the movies of slaves of old. They just did their job. They were beaten. They had no self-confidence. They couldn't ask questions. For the first time in my life, now that I've renovated my life, I can actually ask questions. I want to point out at this stage, we will have 4 glasses of wine on Pesach, a minimum glass of 90 milliliters each. You really can't have wine. You can have grape juice, but you're supposed to have wine. It's a very small amount, by the way. Now, what is interesting, I think, what does wine do? In this whole process and program of recreating ourselves during the Pesach experience, it has to be with simcha. Wine, the energy of wine, the soul of wine is simcha. That's why it says non-kosher wine brings depression, actually. But nonetheless, kosher wine brings you simcha, happiness, because all this has to be with happiness. And I want to point out, a lot of effort goes in to making a Pesach Seder properly. And sometimes you get to the Seder and you're a wreck. Your kids are petrified. You can cut the tension with a knife. Says that the Torah, that's not what it should be. And if a kid comes and spills something on there, you laugh it off, right? That's why I think the Gemara says that a house where wine doesn't spill like water is not a house of blessing. It has to be fun, and the kids have to have fun. And yes, somebody spilled, and yes, somebody broke a plate, and yes, somebody dropped this. Must be fun. That's what wine does. This whole program of self-transformation has to be with fun. Now, the first thing you do, you see, I don't think we discussed this last week. The first thing you say is, this is the bread of affliction that our forefathers ate in the land of Egypt. Anybody who's hungry, let him come and eat. Anybody who's in need of a Pesach Seder, let him come. Now, I don't think we discussed this last week. Did we? Tracy, Stacey, did we? Don't think we did. Okay. It goes like this. The question we should all have over here, this is being said probably at 8 o'clock.
Sorry, Rema. We didn't. No.
Oh, okay. So the first thing you do after you've broken the matzah, you say, now for the first time, you've renovated your life, you can speak, you're no more a slave. And more important of all, if you are a slave to your issues, you can't hear anybody else. You can't even hear your kids talk. Your kids sit at the back of the car, using the front, there's no communication. For the first time, your kids can talk. The first thing you do at the Seder table is, this is the bread of affliction that our forefathers ate in the land of Egypt. Anybody who's in need of a Pesach Seder, come. Anybody who's hungry, come and join. The question you should all ask over there, hold on a second. This is happening at 8 o'clock at night. We're sitting behind in South Africa, barbed wire and electric fencing. Our doors are locked. We spent weeks getting this Pesach Seder right. This is not the time to invite people, right? You've got 25 people at your Seder table. There are 25 chairs taken. You're not inviting 15 people to come and join you. So what is going over there? You're inviting people. Very nice to say it, but it's not true, because you can't do that to your spouse. Lady, you won't be able to tolerate it. So who are you inviting? And if it's so important to invite the hungry and anybody who's in need of a Pesach Seder to the Seder, you should have done it before. 2 days before Pesach, we should have got together outside and we should have said this. Anybody who's in need of a Pesach Seder, come and eat. So it's just out of place here. So mystical commentary explains as follows, that who you're really addressing, you're sitting around with all your guests at the Seder table. You're addressing them and you're inviting yourself. You're inviting them and you're inviting yourself. That for the first time, let me not flirt with this. Let me not just be a passenger. Let me in my entirety partake in the seriousness of the Pesach Seder and go on the journey of Pesach. In other words, tragically in life, most of us, to so many things in life, we've become not only passengers, we flirt with it. We're in, we're out, we don't have serious things. You're on the phone, we're talking to 2 people at once, present company included, we're doing 15 things at once. And I must tell you, the world that we live in has also made us like that. Think about it. 100 years ago, there was no such thing, or 120 years ago, there was no such thing as disposable. Then I think Wilkinson or Gillette invented the disposable razor blade, and that made things disposable. Then came, even when I was a kid, there was no such thing as disposable nappies and disposable this and disposable. Now in America today, you can get an entire Kiddush set. You need the most beautiful Shabbos set with silver-looking Kiddush cups and plates, and the most beautiful plates, all paper. You can chuck it out straight afterwards. Okay, so while it does have its conveniences, it did teach us not to connect to things too much. Even when I was a kid, I remember disposable nappies, and you also had, if a kettle was broken, you took a kettle to be repaired. Today, you just chuck it out. Now, there are advantages to all of this, but it also told us that there's no real value in things. And there's no real value to our relationships. There's no real value to our time. And we come and we pass through, and it's run through. In the olden days, by the way, there was no such thing as a fast. There was no such thing as self-serve meat. You went to a butcher, you chopped it. It was a whole story to go buy meat. Today, it's self-service. Today, you don't even have to go in a shop. It's like delivered to you. I have a kid who lives in Pittsburgh. She presses a button within 2 hours. whatever she presses within 1-2 hours, everything's delivered. It's like unbelievable. Now there are advantages to it, but it also taught us not to engage fully, and particularly now, but there are things that we have to engage with. When it comes to real issues that we have to fix up in our lives, can't be disposable, and it can't be online. It has to be very serious, really involving in it. And that's what this Pesach Seder is all about. You're inviting yourself, the quintessential level of you, to be there. And you're inviting all your guests there, because think about it. How many of us go to a Pesach Seder, or how many of us have guests at the Pesach Seder, and the only thing they want, oh my God, how do I get out of here? They just haven't even realized what Pesach is. I want to point out over here. But while Pesach is the most amazing experience for personal growth, it can be done quickly, because it's a mind. You can think it through quickly. So if you do have guests, you don't want to put the guests into an absolute torture chamber. And if they're not into the whole journey, you can make it quick and fun for them. And a lot of song, a lot of movement, a lot of the kids' involvement. People have to come out of there feeling elated. They don't have to go through every mystical thing. And people don't have to read through every page of commentary that comes out, particularly if a person's not fluent in reading and can drive the guests insane. It has to be a fun, meaningful experience. But however long you're there for, make it meaningful. And I've been saying recently, actually, I've met thousands of people in my life. When you met the Rebbe, if the Rebbe spoke to you for 5 minutes, an hour, or 2 minutes, or 30 seconds, you felt the Rebbe's entire experience and being was on you. He was totally on you, totally. And we can get to that level, by the way, of being totally committed, doing what we do when we're supposed to be doing it. That is the first thing of the Pesach Seder. You're inviting yourself. Good. Then the next thing is, once you've invited yourself, and I'm fully going to be engaged in this, you do this whole thing, the whole magid, the whole Haggadah. The Haggadah means magid, to speak, because I'm no more a slave. I'm renovating my life. I can actually sleep. The whole of the Haggadah is said on a broken piece of matzah. That's strange, because Jews, we like perfect things. If our Kiddush cup is cracked on top, we're not allowed to use it. If the glass that we wash our hands with in the morning has a crack, we're not allowed to use it. If the shofar has a hole, we're not allowed to use it. But over here, the whole Haggadah is said on a broken matzah, not on a perfect matzah. Because Pesach, by the way, is about it's real personal growth. And sometimes when you're broken, that's when you really grow. When you acknowledge the brokenness within you, when you acknowledge the missing pieces within you, when you acknowledge the things that aren't right within you, that's the only time you really can grow. And it's not in a negative way, but Pesach, you have to do it. I saw a beautiful story about a circle. Just imagine this little circle. Some of you probably know the story, a little circle, but this little circle was missing a little piece. It was missing a perfect triangle. So it like limped along. And it went around looking for this piece to make it whole, that it could roll quickly. And went and it found a square, and it found a little triangle. Nothing fitted perfectly. Nothing. A rectangle of that, nothing. And every day it used to go, and it used to bump into butterflies, and it used to bump into worms, and it used to bump into leaves, and it used to bump around as it was going around. Eventually, a muzzle, it finds the missing piece. It finds the triangle. Bang! This thing. Now it's a perfect circle. It can move. It woke up one day and realized, hold on a second. No more can I meet the butterflies. No more can I meet the worms. No more can I see the beautiful things of nature. I'm going too fast. Sometimes when something is wholesome, you miss. You're going too fast. Sometimes you just got to slow down. Pesach is you look at the brokenness within you, not in a bad manner. How can I get it right in life? And then at this stage, for the first time in my life, I can actually listen to my kids. Now, for those of us who are parents, we know that sometimes we haven't even heard our kids. We haven't even heard what our kids have been saying. We've maybe heard their words externally, but we haven't really heard what they're saying. For the first time in my life that I've liberated myself and I'm caring about others, now for the first time I can hear the manish tana of the kids. I want to teach you, because even if the kids aren't there, you have to say manish tana. I want to now learn manish tana on a deeper level. So the first way of learning manish tana is manish tana laila zeh. The kid asks, why on this night is it different from all other nights? And all other nights we eat. Just I want to stop here. There are two different Haggadahs, by the way. I'm going to give the more regular one. But 1,000 years ago, there were two different versions of manish tana. Today, I think Sfardim and Chabad use the one. People in South Africa use the one I'm going to do now. The first question that the kid asks is, why do we eat chametz? On all other nights, we're allowed to eat chametz, and matzah tonight, only matzah. Second question is, on all other nights we can eat other vegetables. Today we have to eat maror. On all other nights we can sit and recline. On all other nights, we don't have to dip. Tonight we have to dip twice. It's a dipping of the kaporis, it's a dipping of the karpas, and the dipping of the morrow later. On all other nights, we eat sitting or reclining. Tonight, only reclining. Now, we say this year after year. How does this help us transform our lives? So there are different ways of teaching it. Let me teach you one. There's another way of teaching it that actually refers to the 4 exiles, but we'll get to that another time, to the different exiles. Okay, on all other nights, on all other days in our life, we can eat chametz and we can eat matzah. What is matzah? Matzah is humility, chametz is arrogance, ego. During the year, there's place for a bit of ego. During the year, there's place for a bit of chametz. During the year, there's place for that little braggy way. There's place for a little bit. But tonight, what I'm trying to achieve tonight in the spiritual health farm for 8 days, what I am trying to achieve, I'm trying to achieve only matzah. I can only have humility tonight. Tonight, there is no place. And the biggest test, by the way, is humility. If somebody comes, if a kid or a grandchild comes and spills something on the floor or breaks one of your things, if you just chill, that's how you know you've got to humility. Because I think these things are there to test us, to test our patience. When you chill it, when the whole thing is chilled. So on all other night, we eat chametz and matzah. Tonight, in this Pesach miraculous experience, where I'm going to journey into the stars, I can only have humility. There's no place for chametz. Now, on all other nights, I can eat other vegetables and maror, but tonight I have to eat maror. What is maror? There are 2 types of marors. The first maror is the remorse for the small things that I've done wrong in life, or for the things that I've done wrong in life that affected myself, the missed opportunities. And the more intense maror later is because of how I've hurt God, because there's part of God within me. That's the second type of maror. On all other nights, when I'm not that into self-growth as I am tonight, I don't have to worry so much about the maror. But today I have to feel intensely bitter. There's a difference between being bitter and being depressed. Being depressed paralyzes. I can't move. I just want to get into bed and shoot myself for what I did. We're not talking about that. We're talking about remorse. We're talking about bitterness. I mucked it up. I'm going to fix it up again. I want to have that energy on Pesach. I want to have that. I'm going to get my life right, both because of the small, stupid opportunities that I messed up, and more importantly, how I let God down. That's maror. I want to have that. On all other nights, I only have to dip once. Tonight, I dip twice. What does that mean, dipping? Now, in Jewish law, dipping is a very, very important thing. We often dip our hands. We often wash our hands. Mikveh is the real dipping. Kabbalistically, a man goes to mikveh every day, a lady at certain times in the month. A man has to go once a year, but mikveh is the most unbelievable experience. Washing the hands and mikveh is the most amazing experience. So washing the hands is not just to get your mind to control your heart. As I explained last week, there's a second dimension to it. It's also got to do when you walk into the holy temple. But the real dipping of the karpas and the moror, the real idea of dipping is washing, it's cleansing, spiritually cleansing. That's the idea of mikveh. Mikveh is the only mitzvah where you go in and your entire body from head to toe, without any clothes on, is being enveloped by godly energy. I mean, that's fantastic. All other nights, we only tonight we have to dip twice. What is the dipping twice? The first time is we have to clean our external, our habits, the way we talk to people, all that. We have to dip that. There's no excuse for bad behavior, no matter what I'm feeling inside. There is no excuse for me not to greet somebody, no matter how cross I'm inside. That's the first dipping. The second dipping is when I've got to go inside of me and get my thinking right and my emotions right. Because why didn't I greet that person today? Or why did I shout at that person today? Because my emotions were wrong. My emotions were hurting, rude, or whatever it might be. Today, I want to get it right. I want to get both my external and my internal. I dip twice. I first got to start with external, my habits. No matter how I'm feeling inside, it all starts with habits. On all other nights, I can sit and I can recline. But tonight, I've got to recline. In the olden days, the free person ate leaning backwards. They didn't sit in chairs like we did today. They used to lie down to their left and eat. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, the Roman emperors and Roman noblemen, they were so into eating, they would lie down and the best foods and pheasants were brought to them. They would eat, then they would vomit and eat again because it was just like into their food. But slaves didn't live like that. Slaves didn't have a chance to recline. Tonight, is the first time that I recline like a free person. And I want to challenge us all in that. What does it mean, a free person? There's some people that we will run and do all sorts of things. We'll pretend to run all over the place to enjoy things. We'll get involved in all sorts of things to just like try uplift our spirits. But are we really happy? The true happiness is when you're reclining, that you know where you're going in life. Hear what I'm saying? There are people who can be traveling to the finest hotels in the finest countries on the best skiing trips, and I'm not pleased if there's place for it, there's place for it. But if that's the only thing that can bring you happiness, then something's missing. Over here, when you've redeemed yourself from you, when you freed yourself from the person that you were and you become the new person, there's nothing nice in that. You can be reclining in your humble home, wherever you are, and you can be in the most amazing, amazing space. So please God, we should take this Pesach very seriously, and we should recline in our pleasures of freedom. And please God, as a result of that, God should bless us with freedom within ourselves, materialistically and spiritually, and the ultimate freedom, Mashiach should come immediately, and we will celebrate Pesach in Yerushalayim. See you next week, guys. Guys, if there's any questions, you must just WhatsApp me privately. Hello? Hello? I'll see you all next.
Hello, Dave. Well done, sweet.
How are you? Okay. Cheers, guys.
Thank you.